Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I'm here with a layout process video for you as part of the Counterfeit Kit Challenge team, and we are telling gratitude stories this time around. I know here in the US it is almost Thanksgiving time, and other parts of the world celebrate the harvest season in various ways, often with gratitude. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to mix up my layout a little bit here. You can see I've got my counterfeit kit in front of me and it has a lot of fall colors in it. However, I am going to tell a Christmas story with these fall colors. And there's a little bit of a reason behind that besides the fact that that's the supplies I have in front of me. So I did pull out a few sheets of paper and I'm going to create an L-shaped design. I just recently saw Victoria Calvin do an L-shaped design on one of her demonstrations, and I haven't done one in quite a while, so I was inspired to do that. At first, I think I'm going to use this yellow to back my photos, and I will switch that up a little bit later. Now, this pink fresh paper with a whole bunch of tickets on it has just a few tickets here and there that I want to use, and I will cut those apart later, and we'll get to that. So I eliminated a pattern paper there that was a map print that just wasn't going to work for this story. I don't even know why I pulled it out, but there you go. Sometimes my brain does things. And as I'm looking, I think this quilty kind of background is going to be my base for this story, because this story is about being very homey with our group of friends and how much time we spend together and kind of some of the silly traditions, and that will be my title later, that we've come up over the years for celebrating times together. So as I'm looking over all of this, I do decide to change my mind about what I'm going to use to back those photos, partially because the alphabet sets that I have for my title would blend in too much with the lighter paper, so I want to use the darker paper for the title, and that will offer more contrast for that to be a little bit easier to read. So I retrim my this is kind of a white paper with a yellow print on it. That's another Pink Fresh Studio paper. So I've got that trimmed down, and because that background is so busy, I do kind of want to line these L-shaped papers here with more of a solid, heavy color to help separate that L-shaped foreground out from the very multicolored pattern quilty background. So that is what I'm doing there, and as I get all of that set up, I am going to ink up my photos because I am now putting them on top of a lighter pattern. The white border to the photos is going to blend in more. So if I give them a little inking, that'll solve some of that. All right, I do need to trim down a few of these elements because they were a little offset and mismatched with the borders there. So I got that done. And I am very carefully aligning that L shape to line up just right with equal parts of the background. And sometimes I get a little fussy about little things that really don't matter in the end, but there you go. That's how my brain works. All right, so these tickets, I did trim out the few that I was interested in, and this ticket, it was on the edge of the paper, and so the top of the ticket was kind of cut off. So I am just cutting off the bottom of the ticket and re-adhering it to the top, and now I've got a full ticket again. So if you're ever looking at your pattern paper and cutting them apart like that, hopefully you can remember this trick and go ahead and repair any cutoff bits that you would like to have showing. All right, so I have, each of those tickets has a little saying or phrase on it that kind of match up with the idea of friendship and family and home and celebration. So that's why I chose all of those different tickets, and maybe you'll see them more in the close-up photos later. All right, and here I go, lining things up just right again. Anyway, with that done, I did get my title adhered into place, and it says grateful for in gold letters and then silly traditions, because using the white letters helps that part of the title stand out more, which is the main idea behind this title. All right, and now I'm pulling out my buttons that I DIY'd back on the 4th, and if you didn't catch that video, I'll link you up so you can check that out. I do a lot of embellishment creations here on the channel, and so I have fun with all of that. In fact, I have an entire playlist on embellishment creation, so I can link you up to that as well. I'm sorting through all the embellishments that I have sitting around for this kit, and I'm picking out just a few pieces because I know that background is already very full with pattern. And at first I think I'm going to tuck more things around the photos, but I will change that up a little bit later because I really want those tickets to be the star of the show on that side of the layout. And also not to hide all of that pattern paper that I backed my photos with. That's what I was thinking. All right, so with my buttons, I am changing up one of my buttons here because it has a food shape to it that I had punched out extra pieces when I was creating those buttons. So I decided this was the perfect time to use that food shape. And I'm going to put a heart button up here on this top photo to cover up the heart on that ticket. To emphasize some of that more, but then later you'll see me, I want to change that out with the food button because that photo is a chalkboard at my friend's house that says Friday, and so every Friday before Christmas we go over to her house and we fry foods for our Friday. And so that is our little silly tradition that we do, and I wanted to put that food button up there. At any rate, while I was chatting, I did create a little scene up in the upper right-hand corner, and as I'm placing these buttons around the layout, I'm trying to kind of create a visual triangle with the buttons. And as I have these buttons going on, I know it kind of ends up being a square because I'm going to put one up with this little house chair icon up there. What am I doing? That's the problem with doing voiceovers later. That's what it was. I switched out the button by the title for that little die cut ephemera. So that leaves my buttons in a visual triangle instead of a square. There we go. Now I know what I'm doing. And as I'm working on this visual triangle, I am trying to figure out a good color balance and pattern balance as well. And that's when I decide I want to put that little food button up by the chalkboard picture that says Friday. So I will go ahead and peel off that heart button and it will get set aside for something else. And I was able to peel it up carefully enough not to, yes, things tore, but they're going to be covered up anyway. So I got that button in place, and the color with a little pop of red up there made me happy because now each of those 3 spaces with the button elements have some red to them. There's a little red tag in the upper right, and then the other 2 buttons have red. I did find, okay, I'm still playing with buttons. Okay. All right, here's where I make a final decision with that upper space. I am going to glue these 2 little pieces of pattern paper, and those are little prints out of Page Evan. I can't remember, they're tiny booklets, swatch books. I think that's what they're called, swatch books. And the prints are super shrunk down, so they make great little layers for things. And I'm going to use a striped print to be my journaling, and I'm using that green print kind of as a wallpaper to this little couch cluster scene up here. And as I'm putting this together, I realize that little scene can fit that button in a special way. So before we get to that, I will show you I've created this little pull-out tag to hide my journaling. And here is where I'm moving that button around, and I realize if I put it at the upper side of that armchair, it can look like art hanging on the wall. So I grab another button and another punch out that I had saved from something else, or maybe I had a finished button. Let me see. Nope, I grabbed another punch out. So I'm going to change up one of these buttons into a butterfly print, and so it's going to look like art on the wall up there. And so that button kind of fits in with my little scene up there, as well as holds the space for that visual triangle on my layout. And I thought I felt rather clever when I figured that out. So if you have any stories of clever things you've done scrapbooking, or at least clever things that you felt you've done scrapbooking, drop me a line. I'd love to hear about them. All right, to finish up my layout, I was putting the date on here, but because that button was already in place, my stamp couldn't fit quite right, and it's crooked and wobbly and wonky. And I thought I was just going to leave it alone and go with the flow. But as I was looking at it, the more I looked at it, the more it bugged me. So I cut off another strip of paper and I fixed that wonky date stamp on there and fussed with it to get it into place, and then I could call it good. So that is the layout process video I have for you today. I hope you'll go check out the Counterfeit Kit Challenge if you don't already know about them. Just a fun, friendly, free group where we inspire you to build your own scrapbook kits and then put them to use. That is it for this week. Next week is Thanksgiving, and so I will be a little on the quiet side, but I do have a couple things for you between now and then, so I hope you will join me for that. Until then, have an artful day.